I think my biggest fear last year was not completely blowing my remarks and making sure that no one showed up this year. By looking around the room and knowing that we have a sold-out room and even added a table, I must have done all right with only a few weeks under my belt. So on behalf of the Board of Directors, staff, and advisory councils of Real Services, welcome, and thank you for joining us for the 27th Annual Age of Excellence Luncheon. Renowned NCAA basketball coach Rick Pitino once said, "Excellence is the unlimited ability to improve the quality of what you have to offer." And all of our nominees today share what they have to offer in meaningful ways throughout our community, exemplifying excellence in very tangible ways. This year, I can say that I have personally met, interacted with, or worked alongside several of our nominees, so anticipation for the award winners is even greater this year. Many of you know the story of Real Services, and I am proud to say that we remain committed to the ideals on which we were founded. Identify a need and seek and recognize those needs in the community, and then work with others to meet those needs, always focusing on our mission of promoting independence, strength, and dignity for vulnerable residents in Northern Indiana. For those of you that are being introduced to Real Services for the first time today, allow me to share a bit of our story. In 1966, Real Services began as a planning division of the United Way to address the needs of older adults in St. Joseph County, especially those impacted by the closure of the Studebaker plant. In 1966, we designed the first program in the United States that combined meals and socialization for older adults, a program that became a national model known as Senior Congregate Nutrition Sites, and which continues to operate today throughout the United States. Designated as an Area Agency on Aging in 1974 by the Administration on Aging, Real Services continues to provide and or fund programs that focus on senior nutrition, guardianship, foster grandparents, transportation, care management, in-home services, and 30 more programs I can't list for you today. It wasn't until 1985 that we were designated as a community action agency for 5 counties in Northern Indiana to serve low-income families as they move towards self-sufficiency through services like family development, assistance with basic needs, and weatherization. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the program, one of the programs that inspired me to come to Real Services, Alzheimer's and Dementia Services of Northern Indiana. ALSNI, as it's affectionately known. They work tirelessly to ensure thousands of caregivers throughout an 11-county Northern Indiana area have access to free helpline, care management, family consultations, memory screenings, support groups, and so much more. We continue to be the model for support for caregivers and persons living with dementia, as well as professional development for those who are caring for people with this devastating disease. Through all of these programs that I've mentioned and many more, Real Services was able to serve more than 62,000 people throughout our community in 2022, a number that continues to grow as the need in our community grows. Our staff and volunteers show up daily to walk alongside friends and neighbors as they go on their journey towards continued self-sufficiency and independence. Speaking of volunteers, it is apropos that our ceremony today is in the same week as the National Volunteer Week, which is celebrated annually in the United States. We are so appreciative of the contributions of more than 1,000 volunteers that engage with us at Real Services. In 2022, our volunteers gave back nearly 13,000 hours to their community. Where would we be without them? That's a pretty easy answer. We would not be able to serve over 400,000 meals through Meals on Wheels, provide guardianship for 65 individuals, make 6,000 phone calls to isolated seniors, or ensure over 400 seniors have a gift for the holidays through the Elves for Elder program. And thank you not only to our Real Services volunteers today, but I know that many of you in this room also volunteer in our community. And we're a little tight on space, so we won't stand, but if you volunteer in any way in our community, raise your hand. Now give yourself applause. It is one thing I've learned about this community is everybody volunteers and serves their community in some way. It's one of the things I've come to love about the community. I also want to thank the members of our advisory councils for their work in reviewing all of the nominations this year. Talk about a dedicated group of volunteers. They had the difficult task of narrowing down all of the applications we received and selecting one winner in each category. I wish to extend a sincere gratitude to our many sponsors that are here today. We would not be able to do this event without you. Many of you have been with us for many, many years. There's a few of you in this room that are new this year as sponsors, and we say thank you to you as well for coming alongside us. And may I give a tremendous shout out to our board of directors who provide continued leadership and stewardship to Real Services. We are fortunate to have such a committed and engaged board who believes so deeply in the mission of Real Services. And on that note, it's my honor to introduce one of our distinguished board members and a true servant leader, Tim Emmerich. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. I'll make some introductions here quickly, and then we'll start our meal. So the person that requires no introduction on my far left, Terry McFadden. Thank you for joining us. This is his 27th year emceeing this event, so we're great to have you. Thank you. Next up, Liz O'Donnell, who will be our keynote speaker. We'll hear from her more shortly. Carla, as we just met from, and Pastor Witherspoon is on my right, and Richard Ma is here on my far right. So those are the introductions to the main table. Also wanted to thank, in addition to everyone that Carla mentioned, all the members of the Les Fox Society who are here today. So if you're a member of the Les Fox Society, please raise your hand and we'll give you congratulations. Thank you. We will serve lunch here shortly following the invocation from Pastor Witherspoon. Thank you.
Let us bow our heads in a word of prayer. God, we thank you for life, and we thank you for the joy of living. We thank you for Real Services and all the lives that they touch through their many acts of service and their many programs. We thank you for every sponsor. We thank you for every volunteer. We thank you for this board. We thank you just for this day. We pray that you would bless this meal, that you would bless this food, and you would bless all of our fellowship on today. Thank you for the honorees. Thank you for the winners. Thank you for all that do work in this great community. In the name of Christ, we do pray. Amen.
Thank you all for being here. Really, just honored to MC this event as we celebrate just some extraordinary people. And we're talking about caregivers, volunteers, community leaders, people who have made a real difference in our community. And we thank you for being part of this celebration. Real Services' mission is all about independence, strength, and dignity. And each of our nominees has worked toward this mission as well. Today, we honor individuals, groups, volunteers, businesses who demonstrate generosity, kindness, selflessness. We recognize caregivers. Now, who are caregivers? Well, they're husbands, wives, sisters, sons, daughters, and others who lend their strength to help another maintain their dignity as well as independence. In the last 12 months, 69 million Americans provided unpaid care to an older adult or person with a disability. Now, this care equates to $400 billion. $400 billion. Now, although caregivers tend to be a quiet group, their impact cannot be taken for granted. Despite this staggering number, the real value of the efforts of these heroes is simply priceless. We honor volunteers today and take time to also celebrate, and I think we mentioned this earlier, National Volunteer Week. Now, volunteers come from all walks of life. They extend their hearts and their hands into all areas of our community, this great community we have here. Volunteers touch and improve every segment of life. We also recognize some incredibly special people who are dedicated to helping others become financially self-sufficient by providing a hand up, not simply a handout, and who affirm and promote the worth and dignity of all people. So, that is what Real Services Age of Excellence is all about. All of you assembled here today make our communities this wonderful place we love and call home. We are truly a region for all ages. Now, each one of the nominees here today is a hero, and each one is deserving of our sincere appreciation. This luncheon celebration is for you. So, if you were nominated for an award, and I know it's kind of tight quarters here, so I won't make you stand, but would you please raise your hand so we can thank you for all you do every day? Please raise your hands. Now, at this time, we would ask that you turn off and put away all electronic devices. Just following orders here. Today, we are excited to welcome an incredible national award-winning author, Liz O'Donnell. Liz is the founder of Working Daughter, an organization dedicated to keeping family caregivers in the workplace by making care and career compatible. Working Daughter provides companies and advises them on how to support employees and customers who are caregivers, supports people balancing elder care and career through its thriving online community, issues the Best Places for Working Daughters to Work list, and sponsors National Working Daughters Day. Liz is also a seasoned marketing executive, serving as the Chief Strategy and Content Officer for Double Forte, a communications company, where she works primarily with women-owned businesses, designing strategic plans to grow their influence, impact, and revenue. She has served on the executive leadership team of several PR agencies and led the marketing department of a multi-million-dollar business in the building construction industry. The author of 2 best-selling books, Liz has also written for The Atlantic, Harvard Business Review, and Forbes. She is a member of the Fast Company Executive Board and has been featured in Self, Oprah, New York Times, and Wall Street Journal. Active in her community, Liz serves on her town's Finance and Warrant Committee, which oversees all municipal financial matters, including the annual budget, financial management, policy, and planning. She co-founded Women in Democracy Dedham, a nonpartisan group that seeks to engage more women in local politics, and previously served as chair of her town's Sustainability Advisory Committee. We are grateful that she took time out of her busy schedule to join us today as we honor all of our nominees. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Liz O'Donnell.
Hello, everybody. I think he covered everything but my birth in that bio, so let me just find my cheaters. I would love to take you all back with me to July 2014, if you will. And on this particular day, I walked in the front door of Traditions of Dedham, which is a senior living community about a mile from my house. My dad had moved in 2 weeks prior, and he was in the memory care unit, the locked memory care unit on the first floor. And my mom had moved in about a week prior to this day, and she was in an assisted living apartment on the second floor. And neither one knew that the other one was there. So when I would visit, if I went to see my dad, I had to park around back so my mom wouldn't see my car. And I'd go in through the kitchen and then take the freight elevator, and the chef got used to me coming through his territory when I'd go to see my dad. But I was visiting my mom that day, and I was able to walk in the front door. And about probably a little more than 2 weeks prior to that, July 1st, 2014, a day that sticks in my head, both parents were diagnosed that day with terminal illnesses. I had a meeting with my dad's medical team at then Quincy Hospital, and they told me it was Alzheimer's and that he should probably not go home. And before I could even leave the parking lot of that hospital, I got a phone call. My mom, the day before, had been transferred to Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston because she had stomach pains. And there was a doctor there calling, And he said, Liz, it's ovarian cancer, and it's stage 4. Do you think you could come over now and we can tell her together? And then for reasons that are too complicated to get into now, but they're in the book, and I got permission from my parents to share this dirty laundry, my mom decided when she got her diagnosis that she had been a dutiful wife long enough, and she was going to live the last months of her life as a single woman. And that's why I was sneaking around that day, because they didn't know they were living in the same place. So this particular day, I was going there because I was interviewing a hospice agency to see if it was time to start my mom. And admittedly, I was in a really bad mood this morning, because since that diagnosis, those 2 diagnoses 2 weeks prior, my life was hell. I was sorting through pills and bills and wills. I was calling insurance companies. I was talking to doctors, trying to understand the diagnoses. I was trying to find an elder law attorney. I was trying to figure out my parents' finances. And so I was in a particularly bad mood. And I'll never forget this woman, the nurse from the hospice agency. Her name was Bev. She came into my mother's apartment, and she was so large and in charge. And she just came in that room. She carried a roll of paper towels. She put one sheet down before she sat. She put another sheet down before she put her purse down. I thought of her during COVID. I'm like, she probably handled it really well, because she knew her germ game. But she sat down and she just started to tell us how things were going to be, how it was all going to work. And she was explaining how medication works in assisted living and the bubble packs, and how, what is it called, PRN meds, the as-needed medications have to be administered by a family member because the staff couldn't do it. And I realized, oh, that family member is me. And as she's explaining how things are going to be, and as my mother gets sicker, I will be there 24/7 to administer the comfort medications, I realized Bev's plan didn't factor in the fact that I had a new job, that my dad was locked downstairs, and he was overcoming a UTI, and he had also been given a very powerful antipsychotic drug in the hospital. So that was clearing through his system. And as he's clearing, he's saying, why the hell am I locked up, Liz? What's the plan? So I've got Dad to deal with. And I also, had the job, and I had a husband and 2 kids at home, and my kids were 8 and 10. And so as I realized that Bev's plan doesn't involve me having a life, I said, can I see you in private? And Traditions has little seating areas arranged in the hallways outside the apartments. So Bev and I sat down, and I said, look, I don't appreciate that your plan, your implications are that I have nothing else going on, and that I can just drop everything and be here 24/7. I told her, I don't have a job. I don't make widgets. I have a career. I said, I'm in business development, and I have a dad downstairs who's upset, and I have a husband and kids at home, and I haven't seen them in weeks. And then I said, and I don't like you, and I'm not going to work with you. And then I burst into tears. Now, you've never met me, so I'm going to ask that you take a leap of faith, and I'm not really normally that rude or blunt, but at that point, I felt like I was at my breaking point. I had no idea just how much I could stretch. That was not even close to the breaking point. Bev pulled her chair up close to mine. I now know, and those of you in the industry probably do this, that's usually signaling that a compassionate conversation is coming, right? When they pull up and they lean in. And she said, look, I get it. She said, I'm a single mom to 2 teenage girls. I get the challenges. So we're going to come up with a new plan. And she said, and here's what we're going to do. She said, your dad, don't worry about him. Oh, she said something else first, too. She said, I'm also a very experienced hospice nurse, and I'm telling you, we're looking at months. And she said, and because I've been in this business so long, I know what it takes to be a good family caregiver. It takes intelligence, organization, and compassion. And she said, and you're going to be great at this, so here's the plan. We're not going to worry about your dad. He's in professional hands. When your mom has passed, you can turn your attention to caring for him. She goes, your job, we can't mess that up. You cannot lose your job, so we're going to come up with a new plan. And she said, your husband and kids, she said, we're not going to worry about them either, which I found kind of shocking. But she went on to say, you don't need to be home for dinner right now, and you don't need to be at their soccer games, because what you're doing is you're showing up, and you are modeling for them what unconditional love looks like. And that's the most important lesson you're ever going to give your kids. And this might be the first time in 10 years that I've told that story and I didn't start to cry, because that message to me was so, so impactful. And she went back in the room and she got on the phone with the assisted living facility, and I think she changed the way they gave out medications that day. She, like I said, was large and in charge. And what changed for me, and you all have a copy of my book on your chair, and you'll see I dedicated it to Bev. What made such a big impact for me that day was that I felt seen for the first time as a daughter. And I felt like I had someone to help me through this, someone who recognized that I had no warning, no training, no plan of attack, no idea how I was going to face what I was facing. And quite frankly, up until that day, I didn't even want to face it. I'm the youngest girl in my family. I was spending all of my energy saying, I'm the youngest. It's not supposed to be me. Why is this me? But Bev thought I could do it, and in that moment, I believed her. And so in that moment, I decided, okay, we all know in every family there's the one. I decided that day, okay, I'm going to be the one. And I realized that there was no way around this. There was no, going to the left or the right or over or under. And to paraphrase Robert Frost, in that moment, I thought, the only way through is through. With hindsight now, having been a caregiver, over 10 years, I think the better quote would have been Winston Churchill. Do you know that quote? If you're going through hell, keep going. That was probably the better quote. But Bev was right about my mom, and she did die a few months later. And then for a few years, my dad and I got into a really nice routine. I was actually able to convince Traditions to move him into assisted living, because his dementia wasn't as bad as it had appeared at the time. And he made friends, and he loved his apartment, and I took him to school plays and soccer games and the beach, and it was really nice for a couple of years. And then the dementia did indeed, progress. And my father's dementia presented with aggression and violence sometimes. So as it advanced, we were all of a sudden on that roller coaster again of doctor's appointments and emergency room visits. And he was taken into custody, if you will, several times and sectioned, as they say in Massachusetts, and put in a psych ward. And that was a complete nightmare. And eventually I had to move him into a nursing home. And at the nursing home, I met the night nurse named Bill. And Bill and I had an agreement. We made promises to each other. Bill promised never to call the police when my dad got violent. He said, I know how to redirect and deal with these behaviors. And in return, I promised Bill that any time I came to visit, I visited daily, that I wouldn't wake up my father if he was sleeping, because Nurse Bill needed a break from Joe O'Donnell sometimes. And oftentimes when I was there and my father was sleeping, Bill and I would sit together, and he would tell me about his stress as a working son. He had older parents living with him that he was caring for, and then he was going to work and he was caring for our parents. So he was an important part of my caregiving experience. And I'm going to break from the story for a minute because I did something dumb this weekend. I just want to tell you before I continue with my speech. I Googled this luncheon just so I could get a feel for what happened. And I saw that a couple years ago, the person standing up here was a Notre Dame football coach. And I panicked. I mean, I ripped up my notes. I'm like, I can't go because one, aren't they gods or something in Indiana? Right? And two, they give inspiring speeches for a living. And I'm like, I can't do it. And I was like, okay, Liz, get your act together. If you can't beat them, join them, right? And I can't beat them because even though I'm from New England, there's only one fact I know about football, and that's that Tom Brady is really, really cute. That's the extent of it. But I figured the coach and I probably have something in common, and that's really understanding the importance of team. And that's why I'm telling you about Bev and about Bill, because I learned how to build a really good caregiving team over the years. There was Nurse Jim. I remember one night I spent the night in a chair in an ER waiting room, and in the morning he was standing there with a muffin, and he said, I think you need this. And those generous acts of kindness would always make me cry. Who else was there? There was a customer service rep at Verizon. So that summer of 2014, I moved my parents several times. So I was on the phone quite a bit with the phone company. That alone could kill a person, right? Never mind dementia and cancer and caregiving. And so I got to know the hold music. And one day I called and this woman answered. I was disconnecting my mom's phone because we had to move her into a hospice facility at this point. And I begged her, please don't put me on hold. It's got nothing to do with service. It's your hold music. It makes, my mom is dying and the music is sad and it makes me cry. And she didn't put me on hold. And I remember I could hear her in the background telling her coworkers, like, don't put line 6 on hold. She's sad. I mean, I can only imagine what her coworkers think, but she was a really impactful part of my team. And then there was an EMT at the local ER, and I was a frequent flyer there, and they'd recognize me and had always come ask, how are mom and dad? There was Flora. She was one of the aides at Traditions, and she and I together made a plan to break the rules. My dad had worked nights his whole life, so he'd like to stay up really late, and most of the residents were in bed by 8. And Flora would let my father sit out in the courtyard and look at the stars at night. And that was really important. And my mom's homemaid, Deb, who became like family. I had a cousin who, when I was sitting vigil with my mom at hospice in the final days, took my kids to TJ Maxx and bought them funeral clothes, because it was one less thing that I would have to do. And then there was Jonathan. So Jonathan was a coworker. And during the summer of 2014, he went to my boss and he said, Liz needs help. Like, she needs backup. I want to be that for her. So these people really, really made a huge difference in me being able to do what I had to do. And when I think about caregiving, it is supposed to be a team sport. But too often, we're playing these individual games. And I live not far from MIT. And MIT has this program, it's called the Age Lab. And they study quality of life for people and the people who care for them into older age. And it's run by this great guy, Dr. Joe Coughlin. And Dr. Joe wrote a book called The Longevity Economy, which is excellent. And in it, he talks about the fact that people are living longer than ever before. And so our challenge as a society is, how do you support somebody for a century-long life? And as a society, we haven't figured that out yet. So what happens then is the family member becomes responsible for financial, medical, housing, and meals, plus the social and emotional. Nobody can do all of that. Even Beyonce can't do all of that. And I'm serious about this. You know that saying, well, we all have the same 24 hours as Beyonce, and implying like, why haven't you won 27 Grammys, right? Why can't you walk around in a leotard and look hot? Well, it's actually not true. I did the math. I went to the US Census Bureau. They have this thing called the American Time Use Survey, and they tell you how many average hours people spend on tasks. So I did the math. I looked up like an average working daughter living in the sandwich, right, caring for kids and parents. And when you add up everything that woman has to do in a day, from everything from showering and eating and commuting and working and caring for her family members, it equals 25.5 hours. And those of you who work in this industry, I bet if you added up everything you have to do, I bet it's more than 24 hours too. So I say, and we all know in this business, I promised I wasn't going to use this quote because you probably hear it every time you go to a caregiving event, what Rosalind Carter says about 4 kinds of people: those who have been caregivers, those who will be, those who were, or those who are now, and those who will need them. So, I don't think she's listening, but even Queen Bee is going to face this someday, right? She'll probably have an amazing team, but that's another story. But the fact is, too often, people are going it alone, and they just don't have that team. And I talk to working daughters and sons every day who just don't know how or where to access the support that they need. And, we heard the statistics, right? You've got 10,000 people turning 65 every single day in this country. You've got millions and millions of people becoming family caregivers. You've got billions and billions. That number blows my mind every time I hear it, of unpaid care hours. And alone, I think everyone in this room is probably an example of, we can do really great things as individuals when we need to, but together, I think we can change the system if we work together as a team. So the people in this room, we're the team. We are the team that we all need and that all of these family caregivers and our older adults need. And, you know, it's not just the people who are here who work in hospice or senior living. It's not just the medical care professionals. Any of you are business leaders. We need you. We need you to make care and career compatible, because it isn't. But it could be with the right policies. And I don't know if we have any elected officials in the room, but we need you to be our representative voices and advocate for the policies like paid leave and the social structures that we need. We need you on the team too. And thank you. Thank you. And if there are any customer service reps in the room, we need you to continue to be compassionate. That made a huge difference for this one working daughter one day many years ago. So we're living in this rapidly aging society, and we all have so much work to do still to ensure quality of life for everyone. And like Bev told me that day, the only way through this is we just need to go through this. And like I think any good coach would say, and it's always a little dangerous when I get into the sports analogies, but what we need to do is leave it all on the field. And I think the people we're honoring here today are doing just that. And so I thank you for leaving it all on the field to solve this issue in front of us. And it is an honor to be here with you today. So thank you so much.
Liz, thank you very much. And I was here when that Notre Dame football coach gave his speech, and let me tell you, those people are ready to run through a wall as if Lou Holtz gave that speech. Very well done. Okay, so now let's get to the meat and potatoes of why we're here today. It's to honor so many incredible people and businesses and organizations. Now, this is how it's going to work. I'm going to introduce each award category and announce the name of the winner. And we ask that the award winner come forward. They may have to do an end around. It might be kind of tough getting through the phalanx of tables here, but we want you to come forward and accept the award, and we want to have them get their picture taken with Liz. And Carl and Tim, you're also going to be part of these photos, right? Yes. Yes, okay. So come forward. Now, for the purpose of time, know that the achievements of each winner has been summarized. It's been encapsulated, because we could go on and on about the wonderful achievements and contributions of all our award winners. So, without further ado, we're in place here. We want to present the Rebecca Zosik Professional of the Year Award. Becky, are you here? Yes. Named after this incredible person who was behind the wheel of Real Services for so long. Thank you. This nominee displays all the qualities one would hope to see in a professional. She's innovative, accountable, and collaborative in the manner she serves older adults and her organization. Innovative. She finds new approaches to expand programming by developing new sites to provide classes, and embraces technology to reach additional older adults through remote classes. Accountable. She uses resources wisely, developing a strong, engaged, and talented volunteer base to deliver classes, and leads the agency to prepare actionable reporting for donors that are relatable. Collaborative. In addition, she seeks and embraces the talent and knowledge of others. She works with other organizations to make the best use of limited resources. Over the past 15 years, she has played an active role in the Michiana community. She has volunteered for the local school system, Girl Scouts, Real Services, Age-Friendly St. Joseph County, and St. Pius X Catholic Church. She has touched many lives outside her professional work. As a director of a local nonprofit organization, she has taken the agency in new directions while maintaining the history, quality of programming, and mission of its founder. Her impact is reflected in the increase of the number of older adults who participate in her programming, which changes the lives of thousands of adults each year and encourages them to be lifelong learners. This year, the Rebecca Zosik Professional of the Year Award goes to Eve Fennessy, Executive Director of Forever Learning Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, Eve Fennessy. Next, the Family Caregiver of the Year Award recognizes someone who unselfishly provides unpaid care for an older adult. Having a servant's heart comes naturally to this community hero. It sounds every facet of her life. She's been a caretaker most of her life. Most recently, she's been taking care of her 92-year-old mother's needs, all while taking care of her grandchildren, daughter, family members, and community. For 30 years, she worked in vital records at the County City Building in St. Joe County. She helped many residents daily through her work there. After retiring from vital records in St. Joe County, she began work with Palmer Funeral Homes. The nominee knows most of the people who walk through the door and greets each person with a cheerful smile and sincere hug. She has made a difference to people she has known for a lifetime and to those she just met. Her caregiving continues when she goes home, making a hot meal for all who stop by the Yellow House. Whether it be for a conversation or a small loan, she makes a difference in the lives she touches. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's Family Caregiver of the Year Award goes to Betty Jackson. Ladies and gentlemen, Betty Jackson. The Business of the Year Award recognizes a local business that displays a strong commitment to serving older adults. The nominee for the Business of the Year has focused on making sure vulnerable seniors have nutritious food for 55 years. This company has stayed true to its mission throughout the years, never failing to step up to address the ever-increasing demand. People who turn to them understand that limited space is challenging the ability to serve the community. Nevertheless, they met that challenge by purchasing and renovating additional space. This labor of love took buy-in from staff and clients. This nominee provides many vital programs for the residents of Goshen and in the region. Not only do they provide food, but they also provide transportation for seniors who have no one to take them to their appointments. For seniors who need constant medical care, this can be life-saving. For over 20 years, they have provided free meals through their soup kitchen. They also provide basic needs from food, clothing, transportation, and more. Last year, over 5,000 families and 21,768 individuals were served. They're truly life-changing and life-saving. This year, the Business of the Year Award goes to the Window of Goshen. Once again, our Business of the Year Award, the Window of Goshen. The Wyatt Mick Volunteer of the Year recognizes volunteerism in service to the elderly. The winner today is a strong example of someone who believes that the actions of one individual can make a difference in their community. She has been a Real Services Meals on Wheels volunteer for 27 years and counting. She's delivered at least 15,000 meals. She's also volunteered weekly for many years at Pet Refuge to share her time and energy with the animals there. Finally, as a retiree from the St. Joe County Public Library System, she continues to give back by volunteering in the home delivery program. Throughout her commitment to volunteerism, the winner has touched the lives of so many in our community. Whether she has spent extra time checking in on isolated seniors and who receive food, or helping someone to meet their literacy goals, or just snuggling with a pet at the shelter, she humbly and compassionately serves as someone who highlights that one individual can make a difference. This year's Wyatt Mick Volunteer of the Year Award goes to Elaine Kamjathy. Now, I'm told Elaine could not be with us today, so Real Services Volunteer Services Manager Sandy Chambers will be accepting the award on her behalf. Thank you, Sandy. Our next award is presented to an agency that promotes independence to low-income families in our community. Established in 1974, this nominee is a not-for-profit community development corporation that is committed to the stabilization and enhancement of neighborhoods here in South Bend. Enhancing the beauty, value, and efficacy of neighborhoods and their residents is at the center of their work. They value beauty in the form of and function of buildings, a value in terms of building economic worth, and efficacy in the ability of people to improve their lives through housing stability, connection to resources, and a caring community. Working in partnership with government organizations, the financial sector, nonprofits, and residents, this nominee strives to create a united community where diverse neighborhoods are considered choice places to live, as well as operate a business, and where all residents have equitable and just opportunities. They bring the community together, the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration annually. They also partner with the Charles Martin Youth Center, Rebuilding Together, the Colfax Cultural Center, and the Colfax Campus Gallery. They provide affordable housing, a home ownership program, financial coaching, and youth programming to those who need it most in our community. We are grateful for their service to our community and honored to present them with this award today. The agency serving low-income populations award is presented to the South Bend Heritage Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, the South Bend Heritage Foundation. The Change Agent of the Year works to empower others through community change. Today's winner makes a difference for others by going above and beyond, based on a desire to help her community. Not because it is in her job title, no, but rather because it is who she is. She has always used her sphere of influence in ways that make a meaningful impact for others and our community, whether as the public face of a fair trade retail store through her work as a Rotarian or court-appointed special advocate, creating opportunities for women to support each other, as a volunteer with Gentlemen and Scholars, El Campido, and Leadership South Bend, Mishawaka. She has never been limited by her job description. She embraces the ideals on which Real Services was founded. See a need, work with others to meet that need. Our winner is the epitome of a change agent, somebody who makes change by empowering and serving others, both within and outside the systems that help those in need. She provides countless hours of her time to youth development, identifying and meeting needs directly or in combination with others who share the desire to serve, lifting up minority business owners, or connecting people with the help that they direly need. Whether through direct assistance, building community connections, board membership, or her job, this nominee epitomizes what we recognize as a change agent. And the Change Agent of the Year award is presented to Courtney Kubley. Ladies and gentlemen, Courtney Kubley. The Sargent Shriver Lifetime Achievement Award recognizes an individual who has spent a life in service to others, giving others a caring hand up. Sargent Shriver once said, "It is well to be prepared for life as it is, but it is better to be prepared to make life better than it is." This nominee always wants to make someone's life better. He says, "We're not known for how much we take in, but how much we give out." He looks at what a person or situation can become and works to accomplish that goal. This nominee has devoted his life to helping people lead joyous, abundant, productive, and peaceful lives here in the Michiana community. His father was a wonderful example of giving, which this nominee picked up on very early on in his life. His compassionate, heartfelt love for people is always at the forefront of his heart and activities. This is evident because he has spent the majority of his life serving underserved people. Currently, he is the senior pastor of a local church where he has served for over 25 years. He led his congregation in building their first sanctuary, which cost $1.7 million to reach ministry goals. Under his leadership, listen to this, the congregation grew from 35 to 1,200 people. He has a long history of supporting this community through 466 Works, the 100 Black Men of Greater South Bend, the St. Joseph Health System PACE program, South Bend Fire Department, Bethel University, the South Bend Community School Corporation, and more. And just like Sargent Shriver, this nominee is the driving force behind and in front of positive community change. His focus is solely on increasing and enhancing both the lives of the individuals and the community at large. His heartfelt passion fuels his service to those in need in the community. This leader has accomplished much in his lifetime and has visions to accomplish much, much more. This year's Sargent Shriver Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Ricardo Taylor. Ladies and gentlemen, Ricardo Taylor. Our final award is the Les Fox Hoosier Lifetime Award. This award recognizes an outstanding Hoosier who has demonstrated a lifetime of service. How does one begin to summarize the accomplishments of a person who has given a lifetime of service to older adults? Our nominee today knew early on, much earlier than many of us, that her life's focus would be the care and concern of older adults. After completing her Bachelor of Nursing degree in 1967, she began her work in community health nursing and then became the nurse care manager on a multidisciplinary team that monitored high-risk older adults living at home. After overseeing the care of older adults in nursing homes, she decided that a master's in social work would help frame her future. Did she stop there? Nope. She went on to earn her PhD in social work and social research, her dissertation topic being Pathways to Parent Care. The measure of a leader, such as our nominee, is seen in the individuals and many aging organizations that had the advantage of collaborating with her. Thousands of students from St. Mary's College learned about older adults from a warm, witty, and knowledgeable professor. Many of those students now work in aging organizations across the country and pass on that knowledge. She coordinated the efforts of hundreds of interns and student volunteers, resulting in new programming for older adults. She made believers out of organizational leaders about the benefits of supporting interns. Millions of dollars in grants have been expanded and improved services in St. Joe County and beyond because of her partnerships. Unique programs have been developed under her leadership and with her input, such as the Care Connections program that Real Services Alzheimer's and Dementia Services program directs at Milton Village. Our community is better because of this nominee, and we know Les Fox will be proud of all she's accomplished to support older adults in our community. It is an honor to present the Les Fox Hoosier Lifetime Award to Dr. Joanne Burke. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Dr. Joanne Burke. Thank you again to all our award winners and all our nominees for all that you do each and every day. We're humbled and certainly inspired by your efforts. And it has been my pleasure to once again serve as Master of Ceremonies for the 27th year of this amazing event. And now, let's turn the program back over to Tim Emmerich. Tim?
Thank you very much, Terry, and thanks very much to the Real Services team for coordinating this wonderful event. I want to take just 2 minutes of time here to tell you about why I became involved with Real Services. Maybe 10 years or so ago, I was approached by a current board member who asked me to join this organization as a board member. And I didn't know a whole lot about it, but at that time, what I did know is I was younger, in my 30s. And I said, this is an organization that helps older adults in the community. But what I knew is I still had 4 grandparents alive. I was very fortunate that all 4 of my grandparents were with me through my 30s. And then my parents were the caregivers for those grandparents. And where they lived, not that far from here, but there was not a Real Services in the community in which they lived. My parents, as Liz was talking about, were spread between taking care of their family at home and then 2 sets of aging parents who lived an hour and a half away. So I said, this seems like a great thing. We need to promote this. Since joining this board over the period of 10 years, I still learn new things about this organization does. Now I'm honored to be the chair, and I tell all new board members, it takes you at least 2 years to understand the number of programs that this organization has and the depth and breadth of the services it provides to the organization. So it's very impactful to a number of people, from weatherization to guardianship. We've heard about the Alzheimer's and dementia services. We all know about Meals on Wheels. There are so many ways in which this organization touches people. Carla mentioned 16,000 individuals were served last year in this community. That's really amazing. We couldn't do any of that without the volunteers. So thank you. Today is a big thank you to all of our volunteer organization, all of our volunteers. And I would also be remiss, as the chair of the board, not to mention we're mostly a donor-funded organization. So if anything you heard about today inspired you, I invite you to make a gift to Real Services to support these services: Meals on Wheels, Alzheimer's and dementia, guardianship, the list goes on and on and on. You may do so by visiting our website, make a donation right on the website. Also, in your program today, there is a coupon for a raffle ticket. Raffle coupons are $50 each. The grand prize is $20,000 in cash. Raffle tickets can be purchased today at a table outside, or you can mail in the ticket along with your donation to Real Services. Your support ensures important yet often under-resourced programs continue for those in need in our community. So on behalf of all of us at Real Services, on behalf of the Board of Directors, thank you very much for joining us today to celebrate those who make our communities excellent. Congratulations to the winners, and have a great day. Thank you.